Namaste everyone. So today we are going to talk about Rohini Nakshatra, the most favorite nakshatra of the moon. The lunar mansion in which moon is actually having its mulatrikona place. So it feels very comfortable. And no wonder, because it is said in the scriptures that moon himself is the manifestation of Brahma, the incarnation of the creator god. And Rohini Nakshatra itself is also the star of Brahma. Brahma or Prajapati is the ruling deity of that nakshatra. And as you will see, there are lots of similarities between the moon and Rohini Nakshatra itself. So the word Brahma itself, or creator, comes from Sanskrit root brih. Brih means to expand, something which is very vast, very wide, and is constantly expanding. Even the shakti or the power of Rohini Nakshatra means to grow. In fact, even Rohini means growing or ascending. So it's about this upward movement of energy, which is very creative, which constantly wants to expand, constantly wants to shine as well. And this is why Rohini Nakshatra is primarily connected with growth. And this is where also Rohini Nakshatra is very similar to Moon itself, which is why even Moon is the planetary ruler of Rohini Nakshatra. Because Moon's primary quality is also to grow things, you know? Because remember, Moon reflects our manas or mind, and how our mind is working. You give a little bit, of happiness to the mind, and it can create a huge excitement out of that. You give a little bit of challenge, and mind can create huge drama out of that too. Similarly, remember that every graha in Rohini Nakshatra will have this tendency to grow things. And planets in Rohini Nakshatra can become very emotional sometimes as well. But Rohini Nakshatra is not just about this type of growth on mental level, but Rohini Nakshatra also helps us to grow things in material level, to grow our abundance, to grow love in our relationships, and in fact even to grow and progress on our spiritual path. Because you see, Rohini Nakshatra, one of its symbols is actually temple. Why? Because if you go to India and look at temples, originally temples were always the tallest building in the city. It wasn't allowed for any building to be taller than a temple. You see, that's why once again Rohini Nakshatra represents this growth, growing up, this upward movement and ambition to constantly expand, to constantly grow, to fulfill both our material desires and our spiritual desires. But of course, because this nakshatra is so full of this desire and ambition to grow, sometimes it can become too materialistic as well. And since this is the most, favorite nakshatra of the moon, where moon is having its mulatrikona place at the heart of Taurus, which is in itself a very earthly and fixed rashi, Rohini Nakshatra is also fixed nature. It's earthly in nature and it's dhruva or fixed. Which is why you see Rohini natives, they really like to stay in their comfort zone. Comfort is a very important thing for them, actually. And this is why sometimes they may face this inner conflict between keeping their comfort, staying in their comfort zone, and this deep desire and wish to progress, to fulfill their desires, which sometimes may require from them to abandon this comfort zone, actually. So sometimes they may face this inner conflict, and you may see, that depending on which graha is actually dwelling in Rohini Nakshatra, some grahas, like Rahu, for example, will, more emphasize this ambition for growth and fulfillment of desires in Rohini Nakshatra. In fact, Rahu becomes extremely powerful in Rohini, and you will see many famous people with that placement. While Moon in Rohini Nakshatra can sometimes make us a little bit too focused just on our comfort and our comfort zone, which ultimately can slow down our progress too. So since Lord Brahma himself, or Prajapati, represents this creative energy within us, of course, Rohini Nakshatra is very, very creative. You can see the natives with that nakshatra. In fact, any planet in that nakshatra can make a person very, very creative. And person can have multiple creative ideas. But sometimes what is the challenge with that nakshatra is to know what to focus on, not to just keep expanding, keep growing the ideas, not to keep spending too much time in your mind, but to actually focus on what is best to choose at the moment, and to really have this energy to fulfill that, to manifest that. So it doesn't stop, just on the level of the mind and desire, but that you actually manifest your creative ideas as well. Rohini is also one of the most playful nakshatras. Remember, Lord Krishna himself had his moon in Rohini Nakshatra. And he was very playful, very artistic, very carefree. So also natives with moon there, they have this ability, they have this quality. They can be very childlike sometimes, even immature, but they really have this playfulness within them, which is a very, very beautiful quality actually. The only thing they really need to take care of is that they don't become too carefree to the extent of forgetting about their responsibilities, because that can also happen sometimes with moon and rohini. Rohini is also one of the most feminine of all nakshatras. In fact, some planets in rohini, and interestingly that's more often the sun than the moon, can make women especially attractive, beautiful, and feminine. Why? Well, please remember that first of all, the entire myth of Prajapati starts from him creating the first female, actually goddess Saraswati, goddess of wisdom. But you see what happens to Prajapati, that instead of honoring her firstly, the moment he created her, he started to lust after her. So he started to chase her. But she refused, to make love with him, because she said, "You are my father, how can I come in contact with you?" So she ran away to search, the help of Lord Shiva. She actually ran away in the form of a deer, which is what Mrigashira Nakshatra, just the next nakshatra, represents. And this is when Lord Shiva, when he had seen how Brahma was infatuated with that desire and how ignorant he became, because you see, when we are overpowered by desire, we lose all knowledge in that moment. So Lord Shiva, to remind Brahma about his divine purpose, he just cut his head, his forehead, with his trident. So that's a very symbolic story, you see. When you have too much desire, too much ambition within yourself, wisdom runs away from you. Knowledge is running away from you. Goddess Sarasvati is running away from you. So that's a very powerful story. But this is also why certain planets in this nakshatra, especially in the chart of a male, can indicate that even a person can abuse women or ladies sometimes. And also ladies having some challenging placements in this Rohini nakshatra may also experience abuse. So remember, this is a very sensitive nakshatra when it comes to our femininity in general and our relation with women. But it's also very interesting if you go to the Vedas, especially this old part of the Vedas like Shatapatha Brahmana, it describes very beautifully how Prajapati, or this progenitor of the entire creation, created the world. And the myth is saying that Prajapati himself, he actually divided his own body like a fractal. He just kept dividing his body, and through this division, he created the entire world. It is even said that entire year and different forms of panchang, different values of time, are also the parts of his body. And this is a very powerful myth because Rohini Nakshatra is also very much, connected to the concept of generosity. How generous we are in life. Sometimes we tend to believe that the more we keep dividing or sharing, that we will actually lose something on that. But the biggest lesson of Rohini Nakshatra and Prajapati as God is that the more you divide, the more you share, the more you have in the end. This is why some planets in Rohini Nakshatra, like Jupiter for example, can become very generous. But other planets which are, obstructing Rohini Nakshatra in some sense, can be a little bit more materialistic or even greedy. Even Mercury in Rohini Nakshatra can sometimes create this quality of greed sometimes within us. So if you're having any prominent graha in Rohini Nakshatra, just try to remind yourself frequently that you will never lose anything on sharing. You can only get more and become more richer and more abundant. And since the body of Prajapati himself is said to be composed from different seasons, from different months, different tithis, different days, also Rohini Nakshatra stands for all these fluctuations in time. It stands, for this change and transformation that is necessary for anything to grow and for trying to stabilize that energy to actually create something and manifest something into the real material world as well. And because Rohini Nakshatra is Dhruva or fixed in nature, it's normally a very good nakshatra for, establishing something in a very strong way, having some strong foundation. But because of that, of course, people born on Rohini Nakshatra can be sometimes a little bit stubborn when it comes to certain things, especially when moon is exactly there. And sometimes, it might be, how to say, hard for them to embrace change, transformation, and fluctuations in life. Because this is exactly what is symbolized by the sign of Scorpio, which is right, opposite to Rohini Nakshatra. So this is also their life lesson, to learn how to, not to just stabilize everything, not to have everything perfectly predictable always, but also to learn how to let go sometimes, and just go with the flow. Rohini Nakshatra is also very much connected to the power of habits. And this is a very interesting thing. Let me tell you why. So, when Lord Krishna finished his first year, he was 1 year old, okay? Exactly when moon was once again in Rohini Nakshatra. Perhaps you know that one of the symbols associated with Rohini Nakshatra is actually actual cart, you know? And exactly when Krishna was 1 year old, there was a very interesting story in his life. So he was still a little baby, and it was just before his naming ceremony, just before he was about to receive his name, Krishna. So his parents, Nanda and Yashoda, were very busy preparing the fire ritual, and they sort of didn't have that much time to take care of him, so they just left him somewhere on the side. And this is when one demon, in disguise of a cart, which was full of utensils for the puja, for the ritual, came to Krishna and tried to collapse on him. But in that moment, Lord Krishna, even though he was such a small 1 year old child, he literally just kicked the cart, very gently with his tiny little foot. And the cart broke completely. The demon was destroyed. So you see, these stories, even if they sound a little bit abstract, but every demon that came to kill Krishna in Vrindavan or in Gokula represents actually some negative quality in our own mind, which stops us on our path to God, which stops us on our spiritual path. And specifically, it is said that the quality that Shakatasura, or this cart demon, represented is the power of our habits and samskaras, which we carry with ourselves from life to life, like this cart full of different utensils, which can so easily, just collapse on this little Krishna, which represents the God within you, the voice of your intuition within you, and, destroy it. But here is one beautiful thing that Paramahansa Yogananda himself said. He said that, you see, there is only one power in this world which can help you to overcome the power of habits, which can help you to rise above your own samskaras or habits from these or previous lives. And that is the power of intuition. This is also why Krishna was a baby in that story, because this is the power of this purity and innocence within you to always hear what you feel inside of you and to do what you feel inside of you versus, just to completely surrender to your habits and habitual reactions. So if you have any placement in Rohini Nakshatra, that might mean different things depending on how well this planet is feeling there. That might mean that you yourself might be very good in establishing a very healthy routine, healthy habits. Generally, definitely it means that having healthy routine and habits is very good for you, as it will help you, to feel more stable in life, simply speaking. It can even mean, and I have seen people like that, that you might have a talent to help others to have healthy routine in life, healthy habits. Maybe you can change them to change their dietary habits as well. So there are plenty of possibilities with that. But definitely, if you have that placement, remember one thing. As much as healthy habits are very important, don't try to always just, surrender to the power of habit, but try to listen to your voice of intuition as well. Especially if you have moon in Rohini, because that's a clear indication that your intuition is quite strong too. So that's a very important thing to remember with Rohini Nakshatra. Moon in Rohini Nakshatra also normally has a very social nature. It feels good, when it has good people around it. But it can feel, very disturbed sometimes when there are people who are not so easygoing as it is. So normally people, especially with moon in Rohini Nakshatra, sometimes even ascendant in Rohini Nakshatra, they have very social nature. They like to be with people. They might not be necessarily extrovert, but they just really, like to maintain quality relationships. The only, I would say, danger that sometimes comes with that and with that social nature is that, sometimes when moon is in Rohini Nakshatra, a person can have also overly romantic or overly idealistic approach to relationships as well, and expect too much from relations, or too much also, to be too idealistic about them sometimes. Because remember, this is the star in which Krishna himself had his moon, and he's this example of ideal love, which might mean that if you have moon in the same place, you also, have this desire to experience this ideal spiritual love. But one thing that you might be forgetting here is that it's really not possible to realize this ideal spiritual love on a very material level, in relationship with other human, because another human is not God like Krishna was. This is why normally it's a very, very good idea for people with that placement to actually go on a path of bhakti or devotion and to fulfill this desire in the realm of spirituality. And remember one thing, moon in Rohini Nakshatra is very powerful. It's his mulatrikona and it's his favorite nakshatra. In fact, there are several Raja Yogas or royal combinations formed with that placement. So remember, if you have that in your birth chart, these can very easily attract to you fame as well with that placement. But remember that for that to happen, normally moon must receive some benevolent aspect from a benevolent graha, and it shouldn't be obstructed by any other graha, by any sensitive point, for that to really give full fruition. But you will definitely see lots of famous people with that placement. One little weakness of Rohini natives is that, they just really like beautiful and luxurious things, especially luxurious cars, actually. And as long as you can afford it, it's all great. But remember that having a bit too materialistic mindset is always a danger of that nakshatra. Having this tendency to accumulate too much, to have always the best of everything. Because you see, as long as you have the best car, maybe you have Tesla or whatever, it's all great if you just have it and if you can be detached from that. But if you attach your sense of self-esteem or social status to that car, then something is not healthy anymore. So always keep in mind whether you are possessing your material objects or whether they are possessing you. And another weakness of Rohini Nakshatra, which actually occurs very frequently, especially when Mercury or sometimes Moon is present in Rohini Nakshatra, is jealousy. So this is something that is possible when the grahas are present in Rohini Nakshatra. That this quality of being jealous of somebody else who has maybe better things than you have, who looks more beautiful, more attractive, or whatever. You see, Rohini Nakshatra tends to get very easily attached to all those external things, and sometimes can have this constant evaluation going on in the mind. What is better? It likes to compare itself. So when you have this placement, the best thing you can really do for yourself, just stop comparing yourself, because there will be always somebody who is maybe better than you in something, and there will be also always somebody who is not so good as you in something. But that's not the point, who is higher, who is lower. And if you have any placement in Rohini Nakshatra, the best thing you can do to yourself is just to accept where you are at the moment. Don't try to always expand, be the best in everything. Sometimes, the best you can do is just to be yourself. So that is all from me for today about Rohini Nakshatra. We have actually already done a 3-hour long webinar about Rohini Nakshatra with different study cases and analyzing the entire anatomy of the nakshatra as well and its sensitive degrees. So if you would like to watch it, you can purchase the recording of that. You have the link below. And already this week, on Saturday, we are going to have the webinar on Mrigashira Nakshatra, the next nakshatra. So if you would like to join us, make sure to join me on Patreon, and hopefully see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste.